Welcome to Stamps Old World UK, a channel where history, art, and value meet through the fascinating world of classic postage stamps. And today, we're going to take a deep and detailed look at a beautiful and historic United States postage stamp, the 2-cent General Casimir Pulaski stamp, exploring its background, design, importance, and most importantly, its market value in today's US dollar stamp market. So if you love old stamps, or you are a collector looking to understand value, this video is made especially for you. The stamp you are seeing today is a 2-cent United States postage stamp issued in 1931 to honor General Casimir Pulaski, a Polish military officer who played a significant role in the American Revolutionary War. And this stamp is instantly recognizable by its deep rose-red color, classic engraved style, and the dignified portrait of Pulaski placed at the center, surrounded by elegant ornamental framing that reflects the strong artistic traditions of early 20th century American stamp design. Casimir Pulaski is remembered as the father of the American cavalry, and his contribution to American independence made him an important historical figure worthy of commemoration. And when the United States Post Office issued this stamp, it was not just for postal use, but also as a tribute to international friendship and shared ideals of freedom, which adds historical depth and emotional value to the stamp beyond its face value. From a philatelic perspective, this stamp was issued during a period when engraving quality was extremely high, paper and ink were carefully selected, and printing standards were consistent, which is why even today, many surviving examples of the stamp still show sharp lines, strong color, and excellent detail in the portrait and lettering, making it attractive to both beginner and advanced collectors. Now let us talk about rarity, because rarity plays a major role in determining stamp value, and the General Pulaski 2-cent stamp was printed in large quantities for everyday postal use, which means it is considered a common stamp rather than a rare one. But common does not mean unimportant, because common stamps are often the foundation of great collections, and they still carry historical and collectible value. Condition is the most important factor when assessing the market value of this stamp today, and condition includes elements such as centering, color freshness, gum condition on mint stamps, perforation quality, and whether the stamp has been used or remains unused. And even small differences in these areas can significantly affect the price in the collector market. In today's stamp market, when we talk about value in US dollars, a used example of the 2-cent General Pulaski stamp in average condition typically sells for a very modest price, often ranging from around $50 to $150, depending on how clean the cancellation is and how well the stamp has been preserved, with lightly canceled and well-centered examples being more desirable to collectors. Mint examples of this stamp, meaning stamps that were never used and still retain their original gum on the back, generally command a higher price, and in today's market, a mint hinged example may be valued at approximately $200 to $300 US, while a mint never hinged example with full original gum and excellent centering can reach values of around $330 to $500 US, especially if it is crisp, fresh, and visually appealing. It is important to understand that while this stamp is not expensive, it remains highly collectible because it represents an important historical figure, a classic engraved design, and an era of American postal history that many collectors admire. And for new collectors, this stamp is an excellent entry point into United States classic commemoratives. Market demand for this stamp remains stable rather than speculative, meaning prices do not fluctuate wildly, but quality examples always find buyers, especially when sold as part of a themed collection related to American history, military figures, or early 20th century commemorative issues, and this stability makes it a reliable and educational stamp to own. Collectors in the United Kingdom and around the world often include U.S. stamps like this in their collections because American commemoratives are widely documented, easy to authenticate, and visually impressive, and this global appeal helps maintain steady interest in stamps like the Casimir Pulaski issue even many decades after it was first released. When evaluating your own stamp, always compare it with verified images from reputable catalogs or auction listings. Pay close attention to centering and condition, and remember that professional grading or expertising is usually not necessary for a stamp of this value unless it is in exceptionally fine condition. In conclusion, the 2-cent General Casimir Pulaski stamp is a wonderful example of how history, art, and collecting come together in philately, and while its market value today in US dollars is relatively modest, its true worth lies in its story, its craftsmanship, and its role in preserving the memory of an important historical figure, making it a meaningful and enjoyable stamp for collectors of all levels. Next up, the 3-cent Honoring Railroad Engineers of America stamp, featuring the portrait of James J. Hill, a stamp that reflects industrial progress, transportation history, and classic American engraving at its finest. This stamp was issued by the United States Post Office in 1933, during a period when America was recognizing the people and professions that built the nation, and railroads were at the very heart of economic growth, expansion, and national unity, making this stamp a powerful tribute to the engineers and visionaries who transformed transportation across the country. At the center of the stamp is a finely engraved portrait of James J. Hill, often referred to as the Empire Builder, a key figure in the development of the Great Northern Railway, and surrounding his portrait are strong visual symbols of railroad engineering, including steam locomotives and rail infrastructure, which together create a dynamic and balanced design that immediately captures attention. From an artistic point of view, this stamp is a classic example of early 20th century American stamp engraving, with rich brown coloration, sharp line work, and a strong sense of depth, all of which contribute to its lasting appeal among collectors who appreciate traditional craftsmanship in stamp production. Historically, the theme of railroad engineers is extremely important in philately because it highlights how stamps were used not only for postage, but also as miniature historical documents celebrating professions that shaped modern society. And this makes the stamp especially attractive to thematic collectors focusing on transportation, industry, or American history. In terms of market value in today's US dollar terms, which is often the most important question for collectors, and the value of this stamp depends heavily on condition, including centering, perforations, color strength, cancellation quality for used examples, and gum condition for mint stamps. Used examples of the Honoring Railroad Engineers of America 3-cent stamp are very common, and in today's stamp market they typically sell for approximately 5 cents to 30 cents, with lightly canceled, well-centered copies being the most desirable within this category, especially if the design remains clear and undamaged. Mint stamps without original gum or with hinge marks generally sell for around $50 to $100, while mint never hinged examples with full original gum, clean backs, and attractive centering can reach values in the range of $2 to $4, and exceptionally well-centered examples may sell for slightly more when offered to the right buyer. It's important to understand that this stamp's value is steady rather than speculative, meaning it is not a stamp that suddenly increases in price, but it consistently holds its place in collections and dealer stocks, making it an excellent educational and display stamp for both beginner and intermediate collectors. Collectors in the United Kingdom and around the world often enjoy collecting U.S. commemoratives like this one because they are well documented, affordable, and visually impressive, and stamps related to railroads played a crucial role in the development of many countries, not just the United States. When assessing your own stamp, always look closely at centering and overall freshness because even small differences can affect value. And while professional grading is not necessary for most examples of this stamp, careful storage and protection will help preserve its condition and long-term appeal. In conclusion, the 3-cent Honoring Railroad Engineers of America featuring James J. Hill stamp is a classic and meaningful piece of United States postal history. And while its market value today in US dollars is modest, its true importance lies in its historical message, artistic quality, and role in telling the story of American industrial achievement through philately. Next up, the 5-cent George Washington United States postage stamp, a design that represents not only American postal history, but also the foundation of stamp collecting itself. This stamp features the portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States and one of the most frequently depicted figures in philately. And his image has appeared on more U.S. stamps than any other person, making Washington stamps a central pillar of American stamp collecting and an essential subject for collectors around the world. The 5-cent George Washington stamp belongs to the classic definitive issues that were produced for everyday postal use, and unlike commemorative stamps that were issued for a limited time, definitive stamps like this one were printed repeatedly and used extensively, which explains why they are commonly found today, but still deeply respected within the stamp collecting community. From a design perspective, this stamp is a perfect example of classic engraved craftsmanship, with a finely detailed portrait showing Washington in profile, strong shading, and balanced typography that includes the denomination and the words U.S. postage, creating a clean and dignified appearance that reflects the seriousness and authority associated with Washington himself. The color of this 5-cent stamp is typically a shade of blue or blue-gray, a color choice that was widely used in early and mid-20th century United States stamps, and which adds to the timeless and formal look of the design, making it instantly recognizable, even to non-collectors. Historically, stamps featuring George Washington served as everyday symbols of national identity, passing through millions of hands and traveling across cities, states, and even international borders. And this widespread use gives them a unique social and historical significance that goes far beyond their original postal function. When discussing rarity, it is important to note that most 5-cent Washington stamps were printed in very large quantities, meaning they're considered common stamps. But within this category, there are many variations in printing, paper type, watermark, perforation, and shade, and some of these varieties can be far more valuable than the standard examples. Now let us focus on the market value in today's US dollar terms, starting with the most common used examples. A used 5-cent George Washington stamp in average condition typically sells for around 5 cents to 20 cents, depending on centering, clarity of the cancellation, and overall visual appeal. Used stamps with heavy or messy cancellations usually fall with the lower end of the value range, while lightly canceled examples with strong color and good centering are more desirable and can command slightly higher prices, especially when sold as part of a larger collection or set. Mint examples of this stamp are more valuable, and a mint hinged copy generally sells in today's market for approximately $50 to $150 US dollars, while a mint never hinged example with full original gum, clean back, and attractive centering can range from around $200 to $500 US dollars. Exceptionally well-centered mint examples, sometimes described as very fine or extra fine, may achieve higher prices when sold by specialist dealers or through online auctions, particularly if the stamp belongs to a specific catalog-listed variety that collectors are actively seeking. It is very important for collectors to understand that condition is everything with definitive stamps like this one, and even though the stamp itself is common, a beautiful example can still be highly appreciated and respected within a collection, while poorly centered or damaged copies hold little more than educational value. Collectors in the UK and across Europe often include George Washington stamps in their collections because they represent the origins of American postal history and are widely cataloged, affordable, and easy to study, making them ideal for both beginners and experienced philatelists. George Washington stamps are also popular among thematic collectors who focus on historical figures, presidents, or national symbols, and this broad appeal helps maintain steady demand in the stamp market, even though prices remain modest. In conclusion, the 5-cent George Washington United States postage stamp is a cornerstone of classic philately, and while its market value today in US dollars is generally low for common examples, its historical importance, timeless design, and central role in stamp collecting give it lasting value that cannot be measured by price alone. Thank you for watching Stamps Old World UK, and if you enjoy long and detailed explorations of classic stamps, their history, and their real collector value, stay connected with the channel, because the world of old stamps always has more stories waiting to be discovered.